Hey there, Philip here from Manning the Fort, and over the last couple of weeks I've been in a bit of a speed painting frenzy getting ready for my 5 Parsecs From Home campaign. Now, as part of that, I rolled up some bad guys for my first mission and realized that my Death Korps of Krieg Guardsman from Kill Team Octarius would really fit the bill, except my preference in gas-masked Imperial Guardsmen is definitely the Armageddon Steel Legion. So, I decided to work up a quick speed paint and film it, and I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently than my previous painting tutorials in that I'm going to actually be watching the same sped-up footage that you're going to be, and hopefully it'll fit a little bit better. Normally I script these and then try to find the right clips to match, and sometimes I forget steps that I've done, so hopefully this will work. So, we start off with some zenithally primed guardsmen, and then I like to work inside out where possible. So I started with some Pro Acryl neutral gray, and I hit their pants. Then there's not much pant cloth on these guys, but you definitely want to make sure you cover it up with something, so neutral gray is a nice way to do that. Next, we move on to their coats. Now, for these, I started off with a layer of Pro Acryl Khaki. I believe it's one of their colors out of expansion number 4. And you're going to hear me mention Pro Acryl a lot. I use a lot of Pro Acryl, and in fact, I'm an affiliate of Pro Acryl. If you would like to get a discount on a Pro Acryl order, you can hit the affiliate link down in the description below and use the discount code ManningTheFort, all one word. So the khaki here, I put it straight over the zenithal. I probably could have gone underneath it with something like a light umber, but instead I just went with 2 coats of the Pro Acryl Khaki to make sure I got some nice, even coverage. We're not worrying about shading or highlighting at this point. We'll get to all of that later, and if you're a regular viewer, you probably already know where I'm going with it. Next, I went in and hit all the leather with some light umber from Pro Acryl. It's just a good mid-brown. Whatever mid-brown you've got will do fine here. I just happen to like this one, so hit all of that, and then I went in on the armor pieces, so namely the helmets and shoulder pads, and did all of those in Pro Acryl dark neutral gray. It's a nice off black. I find myself using it a lot. I even use it a fair bit on my Black Templars because in the absence of a quote-unquote true black, it reads as pretty black, especially at tabletop distance. Hey, future Philip here. Realized, despite my effort at this new format, I did manage to leave out a step, and that is I went in and dry brushed all those dark neutral gray armor bits with some light silver dry brush paint from Ammo by Mig's Dio line. I've talked about this in a couple videos before, but I just really like the way it avoids that sort of chalky look that you can get from other paints when you try to dry brush with them. By dry brushing them silver, I was able to give them a little bit of that worn look that I tend to like on my models. Once I got all that done, I realized I probably should have already done the bases, so I went back and did those. I started off by hitting the entire texture paste on the base, also by Monument Hobbies, with some Pro Acryl Ivory. Then I went in and used some GW contrast paint, actually, as my preferred kind of urban wasteland ash waste basing method. And in a trick I learned from Vince Venturella, I dab a little bit of Militarum green around in random spots, and I do the same with some Gore-Grunta Fur. And I do it while it's all still wet so that they can mix together in places and give you these interesting colors. And then I go over the whole thing with Basilicanum gray. The whole process for all 6 of these bases, I don't know, took less than 15 minutes for sure. Then I went in and did the silvery metal bits. For these, I reached for Vallejo metal color. I did about 50-50 of gunmetal and duraluminum because I wanted a slightly dirty feel, but the gunmetal can be a little matte for my taste, especially if you've got a lot of other drab stuff going on. So a little bit of duraluminum helped brighten that up just a little bit. And I applied that to the gun barrels, the little bits around where the gas masks connect, that sort of thing. Then I went in and hit some of the lighter fabric. So this is what I did with what looks like a bedroll on the top of their backpacks, as well as the wraps at the top of their boots. I hit all of those with some Pro Acryl Ivory, and there were a couple places where I had to do some touch-ups and that sort of thing as well. For one final accent of color, the little bundles about halfway down their backpacks, I did those with Pro Acryl Yellow-Green. I just wanted a little bit of a different color, but I still wanted to keep it kind of drab. And then the part that you probably could have predicted if you've watched much of this channel at all, the oil wash. So this oil wash is a fairly thin consistency, and it's about a 50-50 mix of Abteilung 502's Sepia and Winsor & Newton Winton Burnt Sienna. But any sort of darker brown and then any sort of lighter reddish brown will do you fine. You can mix it to your own taste. I just happen to like mixes somewhere in this range. And then, as usual, you just kind of slap it all over the place and let it sit. I tend to let it sit for about a half an hour or so, and then just dab it back off with some makeup sponges. I did neglect to actually film myself cleaning it up, and by the time I thought to, I already had oil on my fingers, so it wasn't a good time to go grabbing my camera. These 6 troopers took me less than 2 hours, all told. For sure, and they're plenty good for the tabletop. Am I going to enter them in any painting competitions? No, but it's a nice, fast, efficient way to get models on the table. And as you can see, I think they turned out just fine. Now, one thing I will say about speed painting, I don't know if other people are like this, but for me, I can't do more than 5 or 6 models at a time. If I try to, or even sometimes if I know I'm going to eventually have to, that's when I really get kind of in my own head and end up not really doing much of anything and bogging down on projects and et cetera, et cetera. But so if you find yourself in that sort of situation, maybe cut down your speed painting to a few models at a time, and then it can still be fun, and you can, go for speed run records and things like that, and still kind of gamify it a little bit, and still get your models painted and on the table. Hopefully that was helpful to you. If it is, I have a Patreon now, and if you sign up, you can get early access to videos, polls to help guide the channel, and the higher tier Patreons, they will actually be able to help me forge the narrative in games like 5 Parsecs From Home as the channel moves forward. Hey, Future Philip again here, and since I initially recorded this, I have my first 2 patrons. So a big thank you to Bob Manius of Implausible Nature and to Sean Turpin for having some faith in me and throwing a few bucks my way. Of course, you can always help out the channel for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing the video. Until next time, remember, it's just paint, and thanks for watching.